Welcome everyone to the EOcafe. Here we are in December already, end of the year. I'm still in the same EOcafe, but my background has changed. You'll see a lot of cardboard boxes because we're in the process of moving house. Move is next week, but there's still a lot of work to do on the house we're moving into. The work won't be finished. But the space shuttle and the Saturn V are safely packed away, and hopefully will soon be reappearing in the new location. So it's real pleasure today to welcome Jean Jussard. Jean is policy officer in the European Commission with DGRTD, and we're going to be talking about EuroGEO. But just a comment about the rules. Most of you know the rules by now, but just to repeat those, please keep your microphones off unless I ask you specifically to come in. Keep your cameras on if you wish. You don't have to, but if you wish, it's nice to be able to see people. And please put any questions that you may have into the chat so that we can pick them up and answer them. And if we do so, then I will ask you to pose the question yourself, which is when you turn the microphone on. As usual, we'll have a time at the end, which is sort of a free and open, free-for-all for discussion. So please feel free to stay for that. The EOcafe itself will last 45 minutes to 1 hour. So as I said, Jean is going to talk to us about EuroGEO. If you were with us a few weeks ago, we had Jana Gergen as our guest, talking about her vision for GEO. Jana has just taken over as the executive director of GEO. So she talked about her view as GEO as a partnership for governments and organizations, envisioning a future whereby informed decisions could be taken based on data coming from Earth observation satellites. GEO is an informal, public and international body, and it seeks to help its members, which are 132 national governments, to understand how EO products and services can help them in their work. Now, the European presence in GEO has been very strong right from the very beginning. And so a few years ago, the European Commission, together with the member states, started to develop the EuroGEO Initiative. And so today, Jean will tell us more about how EuroGEO is both contributing to GEO, contributing to GEO meeting its objectives, but also, for me, more importantly, how European actors can benefit from the investments made by the European governments and the European Commission, of course, into GEO. So, John, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to see you again. Tell us a little bit about EuroGEO. Set the scene for us. Tell us a bit about yourself and EuroGEO.
Thank you, Jeff. Before showing some slides, let me say hello to everybody. Good afternoon. This is my pleasure to join your community and participate in one of your EOcafe. I think our colleagues have, most of them have already experienced your hospitality. Gilles in the past, Marianne van Merlo just a couple of weeks ago, and others from colleagues from other directorate generals, like our colleagues from DEFIS. So today it's my turn. I would like to say a few words to introduce you with an initiative that we launched about 4 years ago, the EuroGEO Initiative. And for that, I will just share a few slides. Maybe just saying in the meantime a few words about myself. Do you see the slides?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. So I'm acting head of sector following the retirement of Gilles Ollier, who previously was occupying the position. I see in the list of participants that is is still with us because he joined again the day after his departure the team as a senior active, and it's
I think he's with us this afternoon as well, Jean.
Yes. I've seen him in the list of participants. So our small team is part of is in the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. We are part of the unit on climate and planetary boundaries, which focus essentially on the support to research in the climate and the biodiversity domain. And we believe that those are two thematic issues that are where there is certainly a lot of added value to exploit to the maximum extent Earth observation. Our sector is called EO, but referring to environmental observation, because we believe that we should not ignore the other types of data, and to be able to make the best of satellite data, we still need to rely on other types of data, being airborne, Internet of Things, citizen science, in situ data, of course, etc. So let me start now this short presentation. I hope you see the next slide. So it all came from a conclusion on a space strategy for Europe that were the Council conclusion adopted in May 2017, where the Council, so the different ministers having the space in their attributions, were concluding that they were asking and encouraging the Commission and the Member States to work with relevant actors to facilitate innovation and development of space application, business opportunities, outreach activities, as well as industrial capacity, including for new space companies and initiatives, SMEs, startups, and scale-ups. So I have to say that this maybe puts a bit the overall frame. That's where we thought, okay, we better try to do something and organize ourselves at the European level, and that's where EuroGEO came from. So it was created at the occasion of the GEO plenary in Washington in 2017, with the ambition to deliver an integrated European contribution to GEOSS. And as well, because of course we don't do that for free between brackets, the idea was as well to increase what GEOSS can bring and what could be the benefits of GEOSS for Europe. So overall, we see EuroGEO as an incubator to produce and test Earth observation service and applications. But this is not done in isolation. It has to be done in cooperation with Copernicus and with all the actors working in the area of Earth observation in Europe, the member states, the GEO participating organization, the private sector, the research world, etc., etc. So overall, EuroGEO aims at delivering specific Earth observation applications that are able to take advantage of this possibility to integrate the global data sets made available through GEOSS. But at the same time, we wanted to take the opportunity to promote, scale up, and develop additional Earth observation application, all this in association with user. And again, maybe a repetition with a previous bullet point, building on the Copernicus existing infrastructure or the resource made available by the project that we were financing. So overall, we have those three C's: cooperate, coordinate, combines, that summarize a bit what is the rationale of EuroGEO. Foster cooperation between all those actors I've named, better coordinate our inputs towards GEO, and combine expertise, data, and knowledge to be able to reach, to really develop end user solutions. Well, all this might sound very ambitious. How did we do this, and what did we achieve? Okay, of course, we are lucky being in DG Research and Innovation that we were able to mobilize, and this is something we are still continuing to do, to mobilize our research and innovation funds from our respective European research program, in the past FP7, more recently Horizon 2020, and now, and for the next 7 years, Horizon Europe. But it was not only a question of money. We managed as well to mobilize the stakeholders to what we call the action groups, which were thematic groups focusing on a number of themes like agriculture, land cover, climate, etc., to develop pre-operational service. Again, taking advantage of the fantastic asset that we have, the European Space Program, and in particular, its Copernicus component. Another way to play an active role is, of course, to be present and to come with a strong European voice in the GEO activities. That can be via the GEO work program, but this influence can take place as well as being important participants and contributors in the different governance bodies of GEO, different working group, their decision-making bodies, and I'm very pleased that Europe is very well represented, being in the executive committee of GEO, or in the program board, or in the different working group. Now, more recently, we are trying, because of course, on the other continents, they are facing similar issues, and we are trying to increase our cooperation with the other regional GEOs, namely AfriGEO, AmeriGEO, and EuroGEO for Asia, Oceania. If we look back at those last 4 years and we try a bit to summarize and to recap what we've achieved so far, we think that we managed with this initiative to bring together decades of public investments in Earth observation and cloud capabilities, and turning those investments into service dedicated to solve problems addressed by our decision makers, the citizens, the industry, and the research community. We consider that we manage as well to help Europe to position itself as a global force in Earth observation by leveraging Copernicus, by making a better use of the European capacity, and improving the user uptake of the data from the GEO asset. Some figures on the existing projects that we have been funding in the last years, and the projects that are under preparation or that have just started, the last one having been awarded via the Horizon 2020 Green Deal call. Of course, we try as well to help the recently closed projects to have a sort of life after life. For example, by trying to get them be part of the GEO work program, so that they can continue leverage and we keep the legacy of those projects. What is ahead of us? With a number of milestones, I've tried to put in a sort of calendar for the next 7 years. In parallel, the different milestones we have ahead of us. We publish starting with Horizon Europe, which is probably what interests you most. We publish our first work program covering the years 21-22 in June of last year. We are starting working on the next one that will cover the years 23 to 24, and that will include as well the launch of a partnership on agriculture of data. And you will see that the Horizon Europe being a 7 years program, there will be a third work program that will cover the last 3 years of the period. On the GEO side, we are in the middle of the implementation of the current GEO work program covering the year 2020 to 2022. but we will soon start collecting inputs from the European community to help contribute to the preparation of the next work program that will cover the period 23 to 25. I could have had in the slides what Jana called GEO 3.0, which will be how she's envisaging the future, the next decade of GEO beyond 2025. But it's still very premature and still needs to be refined and discussed with the entire community before being shared with the public. If we want to achieve the objective of GEO, we need some components. We need some infrastructure components that try to address the user needs. With currently with the GEOSS portal that some of you might have been involved in the development. It's a concept that has to evolve, and some decisions were taken in the recent GEO plenary last week to start reflecting on what should be the next generation of the GEOSS infrastructure. A GEO expert advisory group is about to be created and will make recommendations in the coming months. We'll as well consult the entire GEO community to check if the current GEOSS concept is still valid, and how potentially we can make it evolving. On our side, focusing on Europe for EuroGEO, we have a current EuroGEO implementation plan that we are still running for the next for this up to the end of 2022. But in the meantime, we have to prepare, and that's the reason I put drafting of the next implementation plan, because I really rely on the European community to help make sure that the EuroGEO work program and what we want to achieve in the coming years is inclusive, and our next EuroGEO implementation plan will cover the years 23 to 25. Then we will have to look at what could be the potential options to make sure that maybe the European Commission is not the only one in the driving seat, but that somehow we turn and we embark the rest of the European Earth observation community in the same boat or in the same train. Again, might be interesting to start as well reflecting at this a discussion we started this year. If we need specific infrastructure to support our ambitions, what we would call then an EuroGEOS infrastructure. So for EuroGEO system of systems, this is still a very preliminary discussion, because we are fully aware that we have many platforms around in Europe. I mentioned the Copernicus DIAS, and for the people that have from this community, from your community, that are following the Copernicus committee. Yesterday there were some presentation on what could be the future of those DIAS, but there are as well the ESA thematic exploitation platforms. We have the European Open Science Cloud. We have in Europe, I have to say, we don't lack platforms, and it's certainly not our ambitions to ask and to request to create a new ones. But maybe we could see how we can better develop interoperability arrangements to better connect all those platforms between themselves and create a sort of digital ecosystems of platforms. Of course, if there is a need, if this is not just a simple IT exercise of building a systems, it has to start from the user requirements. Back to Horizon Europe very quickly, because it was indeed present a couple of weeks ago by my colleague Marianne, but still many opportunities available on this slide. And when Jeff will share the slides, you will have access to those, to the links behind those blue underlines URLs. We publish a fact sheet this summer that indicates as well what are the many opportunities that are present in the different part of the very rich Horizon Europe program. There are still open opportunities up to mid of February, if I remember correctly. We have 3 calls that are directly addressing that could be of interest to the ERSC community on new technologies for acquiring in situ observation data sets to address climate change effects. We've secured an envelope of 20 million euro for that topic. We have a second topic on the uptake and validation of citizen observation to complement authoritative measurements with the urban environment and boost related citizen engagement. Third envelope is 14 million euro. And then a last one on environmental observation solutions, contributing to meeting the One Health challenges. And for that, we secure a budget of 10 million euro. So you see that it's not peanuts, 44 million euro. And as I was mentioning, we are working on the next work program covering 23-24. It's still too early, of course, to share very precise information on that, but rest assured that we will still support the EuroGEO Initiative coordination. We will still work on filling the observation gaps, on developing pre-operational prototypes of end-user service. We would like as well to explore how, for example, citizens can be better mobilized, not only to monitor and report on the state of environment, but becoming real actors that can intervene to protect their environment. We call this environmental compliance. In addition, this year and next, we will make progress in preparing a partnership on agriculture of data with our colleague from DG Agriculture. It's a co-funded partnership, so the Commission will put a certain amount of money that will be complemented by member state, and you see that among the domains and disciplines target, environmental and Earth observation are present. So that will offer additional opportunities. So looking now, before we start the discussion on what should we look at for regarding the evolution of EuroGEO, still we consider it important that EuroGEO is well anchored with its core priorities within the GEO work program. That if it fits very well, and that's the reason we really need the community to pass a stronger message so that we are as well able to influence that GEO work program. Just to say it very clearly, we don't want this to be driven only by the other regions of the world. So I think that Europe has really something to say about that. We have an interesting initiative that at the beginning was an internal initiative towards the different EC service, the Knowledge Center on Earth Observation, which is a common initiative from our colleagues from the Joint Research Center and DG DEFIS. But we see opportunities as well to use that knowledge center and open it a bit more to the rest of the world. For example, to leverage, to increase the outreach of all the projects we've been funding in the course of the past years, because we still believe that the results of those projects could better help define, for example, user requirements, user needs for the next generation of Copernicus satellite. We would like to envisage and to work with the community on the development of this  digital ecosystem, at least to look starting from a vision document and how it should be implemented, and if it addresses the most pressing user needs. We will still, not only via the grants, but via the mechanism, for example, of our action group, we still want to help to deploy commercial, to help the community to be able to deploy operational commercial EO-derived products. But we have, as I mentioned it shortly, we have to look as well at what should be the long-term sustainability of EuroGEO. How can we mobilize the community to prepare what should be the next life of EuroGEO? And we believe that it can be certainly useful to go a bit beyond just exchanging good practice with the other regional GEO. So in conclusions, we believe that EuroGEO can really help tackling the last mile of the EO value chain. DG RTD and DG DEFIS are ready to continue to work together with us in a complementary way. After some years of test and soft governance, we need, however, to explore a more robust program structure for EuroGEO, and projects like eShapes can certainly help us in looking at different options, their feasibility, their finance, their business model, their new instruments or old instruments, the partnerships, the research infrastructure, Eric. Should we consider procurements, the Cassini's initiative of our colleague, launched by our colleague from DEFIS. But before looking at that future, we still have in the very short term, and that's in coming months, because by the spring we should have a new EuroGEO implementation plan ready. And I invite you via the coordination group of EuroGEO to participate and help us drafting this implementation plan. And I think that was my last slide. Thank you for your attention, and now I'm open to your question.
Jean, thank you very much. You've covered an awful lot of ground there, and thrown a lot of terms out into the cafe. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I realised earlier on I didn't have my headphones plugged in, so the sound would have changed. I'm struggling where to start. Just maybe try to draw a distinction between GEO and GEOSS and EuroGEO and EuroGEOSS for people. EuroGEOSS and GEOSS are meant to be some form of infrastructure, which I think goes beyond just standards, but puts in place real mechanisms for exchanging data and exchanging knowledge. Whereas EuroGEO are more governance structures which oversee various projects which help contribute towards the infrastructure and the content that can be made available through the infrastructure. Is that a reasonable picture?
Yes, the first one should be considered as the mechanism, how to do it, and the second one would be what it is about. I think that could summarize easily. So we have indeed an initiative in place that has its own governance structure, a relatively complex one for GEO, a very light one for EuroGEO. And then we have tools that are developed by the community. And for example, the GEOSS portal has been essentially, we should be proud of that, but it has been essentially funded and developed by European partners. Not only the European Space Agency, but different university or research organization, some private companies like Eversys. I think that they are probably member of EASC. So we try to look at and to make the best use of where are the competence to develop the tools we need.
And the goal in the end is still to serve the members of the GEO community, if I can put it that way, as this informal international organization. And we've always seen it as a very good vector for informing countries which are less familiar with the use of data coming from satellites and the information derived therefrom, and to help them become more aware and to build more into their usage.
Yeah, clearly those tools needs to evolve because probably the access to Earth observation data, at least in Europe, I think it's not really an issue anymore. Spatial data infrastructure have been around since the last 20 years. The INSPIRE directive was really instrumental in encouraging, maybe sometimes forcing member states to open their geospatial data. What is still difficult is to share added value create and the knowledge create with Earth observation data, and indeed to make sure that the user are able to reuse this information. So we have to reconsider the purpose and the functioning of those infrastructure to address new needs and new expectations.
Certainly, the needs are different in different parts of the world. I mean, just basic data access, internet access is very different in some of the developing or developed countries. And you've mentioned that EuroGEO is one of the geo-regional initiatives. Can you just say a little bit more about the other regional initiatives and how they fit together? Do they all look the same? Do they have same or different goals?
No, they have the different governance structure. They have certainly different goals. If I start with Africa, for example, their emphasis is more not so much on the technology components, but on the capacity building side. They have first to raise the awareness of what can be done with Earth observation. They have to train local experts to be able to make the best use of those technologies. In America, it's a bit different. It's okay. At least as you can expect, it's an initiative that is essentially driven by the USA. Maybe their ambition is more on how should I say that? Promoting, evangelizing to the rest of the American continent their technologies, their platform. Not always in a geo spirit, because somehow that's always the risk with those very well-known commercial platforms that we use all of us on a daily basis on our mobile phone. Is that once you have discovered how easy they are to use, of course you are very tempted to use them extensively, but you never know exactly what will happen with your data, being the data you put on those platforms, or being even your personal data, and what will be the long-term model in terms of ownership of the data you have placed on those platforms. Then looking at the last one, the Asia Oceania, it's a bit an artificial creation, because it's just 4 billion people, 70% of the total population, and the priorities of China is leading that EuroGEO, but they are challenged by the three main other partners, which are Australia, Japan, and South Korea. And clearly, the Chinese are interested as well to export their models, but at least they are looking at really serious issues on extreme events that are adaptation to climate change that are affecting their region. And we have really the intention, like with to work with them on topics that are considering the difficult relation existing between the China and most of the rest of the world. We have to be we are fully aware of the, how should I say that, of the opportunities that this cooperation can bring, but we have to be still careful what we do with them, because of course we don't want them, for example, to work on projects that have very high TRL and that develops innovative technologies, because we are not sure that we will work on the same with the same principles on those topics. So maybe that's a bit the landscape of the different regional geos.
Yeah. And Geo was one of the instigators, certainly a strong driver of the free and open data policy, which is adopted for Copernicus, and as an industry we've always supported that. But maybe there's a danger through Geo that that policy helps to support rivals rather than the European sector. So I think, certainly from my point of view, EuroGEO is a very important initiative to try to ensure that strategically the European industry is well positioned. What can we do to achieve that? What can the Commission do, or ERSC with the Commission do, the industry with the Commission do to help ensure that we are certainly at the front of the, dare I say, revolution in terms of information use coming from EO satellites? Because certainly we see it as being a very dynamic, very expanding widely at the moment. How do we ensure that European industry is well positioned?
Well, via EuroGEO, at least we are lucky that that's maybe something that distinguishes us as well from the other regional geo, is that we have a fantastic funding program that we can leverage and mobilize and decide to support the community, and that includes the industry where we feel that there is a need. For example, we are fully aware that we will not try to compete against those large out of Europe IT companies, but our strengths are in our ability to derive added value products, to develop ad hoc solutions and promote them to the rest of the world. And you have seen, and I think that ERSC was very pleased with the industry track 2 years ago. I have to say that I couldn't, because the agenda was so full last week, I couldn't follow the industry track of this edition of the GeoPlanary. So I don't know what was your feeling, if you had good feedback, and if it was helpful as well to showcase what European industry is able to do. Maybe I send you back the question.
No, that's fine. I was not so. I was rather tied up myself last week, so I didn't participate too much. I don't know if Emmanuel wants to comment on that particular point, or maybe you come in later as and put a comment in. Yeah, I mean, certainly we very much appreciate the industry track and the way it's been set up. Unfortunately, the world has changed since it was first started, so we have to see how we adapt to that, and certainly we hope to have some physical meetings, and hopefully the industry track will be a physical meeting next year in Europe. Let me turn to the questions now. Emmanuel Mondon. Emmanuel Pajot, if you want to come in, please signal. But for the moment, I'll open up to Emmanuel Mondon, who's put a couple of quite interesting comments into the chat. Emmanuel Mondon.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thanks, Jeff. A couple of questions. Some of these are annoying, such as the first one.
Most of your questions are annoying, Emmanuel.
No, not always, not always. But I was super surprised by the figure given by Jean. 173.3 million euro spent on ongoing project plus 30 blah blah blah. Lots of money. Great. So my first question: do you have statistics about the number of entities which contributed to this activity, and how much money was given to each of them?
I think that Gilles might correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, that the CORDIS database is an open access as an open data access model, and you should be able, of course, it's not easy to do that exercise, and it's something we could try to do in the coming months, because you have basically to go and search call by call from the different work program. Okay, we launched the Green Deal call, and in the section 9.3 there was a specific call to develop climate service in support of GEOSS. How many projects have been awarded following that call? What was the total money award? And then how was that money split between the different partners of the consortium? I think that those data are public. The split between partners, I'm not totally sure it is public information. This I would have to inquire, and I can certainly come back to you on that. But I'm pretty sure that downloading the CORDIS database and doing that exercise, you would be able to make those calculations. But we haven't done it specifically because, as you know, Earth observation is sometimes it's clear there are direct calls, for example, under cluster 4 that are specifically geared for further developing the Copernicus next generation, for example, or in support to some specific Copernicus service. In or more thematic work programs, sometimes the linkage is indirect, where we will say, oh, we have a call on the biodiversity restoration, but it's that specific call encourage the use of Earth observation data to be able to derive, I don't know, essential biodiversity variables, for example. Okay, do we count that specific call into that that list? I would tend to say yes, but so the level of engagement of Earth observation in all the calls is not always the same. It's maybe easier to focus, at least for Horizon Europe, we have a specific area of intervention on environmental observations. Of course, again, environmental observation with, for example, some calls that are more on citizen observatories where, of course, Earth observation can help validate, for example, measure downs like we have currently we had in September a large campaign in Belgium and particularly in Brussels to measure, to ask citizens to measure NO2 concentration in front of the house. Certainly, we certainly see the benefits in validating those measures or confronting them with results collected by, for example, Sentinel-5P. So sometimes it's different to say exactly does that count as an Earth observation? Is it really an Earth observation project or not? I don't know if I have answered your question, at least the first one.
Yeah, thanks, Jean. And therefore, it triggered the idea of this EuroGEO-related projects knowledge base. You mentioned that you need somehow to capitalize what has been done from a project point of view and from a knowledge point of view. Just for your information, Cooperative Europe has done a super interesting knowledge base related to a totally different topic, cooperative, but the tool is existing, and that's an open source tool, and it could be used for any other knowledge base. So I'm pretty sure this could be done for not a lot of money, and it could be useful indeed to browse all the projects, because I'm not able to list and to check and to find all the projects related to EuroGEO, for instance. So indeed, I can go to Cordis, I can check one by one, but it will be quite cumbersome. Then another idea, you were mentioning it's time for sustainability and not necessarily being paid by public money. So I put in the chat an idea. There is a Time for Planet initiative, and they are funding any entity, public or rather private entity, tackling climate change. So maybe some of the ideas coming out of one or another project from EuroGEO could be funded. The last point, I love this, Jeff, you know that. I'm deeply involved in data sharing and data spaces. And you wrote EuroGEO can help tackling the last mile of the EU value chain. And do you know what is on top of the last mile of the EU value chain? The various data spaces, agriculture, Green Deal, security, blah, 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 blah. So I suggest, and happy to support, to create what I'm calling a geo information data space or space data space in order to move on.
I think we need some more. We need some more initiatives. We don't need more platforms. We need more initiatives, and you know, that can be good. That can be good. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
See what we can do.
Let's have a look at the recently digital call published. You have already a number of data spaces considered. Yes, you have to make a EOcafe on that. I'm stopping here.
Yeah, we could next year. We've got quite a backlog of EOcafes for next year, but we'll add that to the list. We'll talk offline, or maybe we can talk afterwards.
I'm sure our colleagues from DG Connect will be very pleased to present the data space, because indeed this represents really an interesting opportunities, and there is this seed funding starting with the digital program. We put in our work program last year a dedicated call on the Green Deal, the Green Data Space, no, the Green Deal Data Space, yes. And let's see what will be the results of that call. If I remember correctly, it was about 10 million euro, but more will certainly come in that direction.
Yeah, maybe we should have an EOcafe, sort of more open EOcafe around that sort of topic. Could be interesting. Emmanuel Pajot, do you want to just comment on the industry track this year? I mean, obviously it's difficult in these virtual times.
It is, yes, that's true. Nevertheless, first was part of the organization committee, supported GEO for this, and I think the industry track was quite successful. I was really surprised by the number of applications we received from company. We really pushed for a significant number of slots for company to identify themselves and to promote the connections they want to establish with the work program. And I think European companies were really numerous compared to other areas. So it's really highlight that at least a part of this success is linked to the strong push made by the Commission to really promote and develop the connection with GEO community. And we have a lot to deliver to promote the capabilities. Nevertheless, we have to acknowledge that there is still a difficulty about this last mile. We can name it how we want, but there's still a lack of connection in order to really support company to understand who can be the good contact point to develop or to really be implemented into the work program. I think there is a need there to fill. We will discuss it with as a participating organization with the GEO Secretariat, obviously. But this is something that we have to strengthen in order really to continue to build this success. There is a lot of interest, but this last mile is not currently strong enough. So this is something that we clearly learned again this year.
Don't hesitate as being a participating organization to bring that as well to the attention of the high-level working group, because it's not only about preparing the next GEO plenary, but it's as well on talking between Europeans on where the emphasis should be, and we are really ready to help to put you in contact. I think that this I have to say that I don't know that very well, but I think that this Cassini initiative will certainly open new opportunities to fill that gap.
Yeah, I think the Cassini initiative is a good one, and certainly to help companies with the sort of getting over some of the barriers that exist. But I come back to the point I made earlier about the sort of international competition and making sure that we can channel efforts through GEO, which really is a good opportunity. The industry track and what goes with it is a very good opportunity for showcasing what can do. We have some incredible competences in Europe. We do things in a different way to the US or to other parts of the world. But we need to make sure that the strategy, you mentioned earlier, the implementation plan and the strategy for EuroGEO fully takes that into account and is there to help build European benefits and European economy. That work will be starting or has already started within the coordination group you mentioned.
No, not yet. We had a coordination meeting in September, and then I have to say that since that time, because we were waiting as well, it's only now last week in the GEO plenary that the process to develop this new implementation plan was formally agreed by the community. So now the ball is still in the camp of the GEO Secretariat. They say that they will develop templates to make our life easier, to avoid as well to have documents that are impossible to compare to each other. But we expect that after Christmas, New Year, we will really enter in the core of the topic.
Yeah, I think we should tackle that very very early, and you know, if that means sort of jumping ahead of any sort of standardization that GEO might wish to bring to the table, I think we should do it. I think we need to get this sort of strategy sorted out. It's some of the things that you know, Emmanuel is talking about can be very useful to think about.
Certainly, and that's where I think that would be important as well to look at what each funded project can bring. Not only, okay, clearly EOcafe is a strong contribution to EuroGEO, but it's not the only one. Yourself, you have been in different projects, and I think that, for example, the experience in PARSEC or in PHI needs to be better evangelized outside Europe, and I think that's where we can bring and signal that in Europe we do it differently.
Yeah. No, that would be fine. It's perhaps worth just a comment now. We've touched on the Knowledge Centre for Earth Observation a couple of times in the conversation. We have extended an invitation to the JRC to join an EOcafe on that subject, and we would hope to try to get that you know, get people to understand better what's going on fairly early in an EOcafe fairly early next year.
Yeah.
So
that's good. We will certainly be more engaged because we are discussing as well with the GRC to continue the support that started 4 years ago with what they were calling the EO value project. And we try to prepare a second EO value, and that could be, for example, an occasion as well to relaunch this idea. I think it was very successful before Canberra of this, what we call at the time the sprint to ministerial, because again, it was on a voluntary basis, but it helped mobilize the community and to come with solid applications to showcase. And this is certainly something we would like to do again.
Yeah, and certainly EOcafe is developing the material for that, but it's really important. This is put into an overall strategic perspective, and that we can, you know, jointly develop this vision of where we're going and how we can best get there. I think there's a lot of pieces, as you've said. There's a lot of pieces out there. It's okay. Any further questions? We've just about got to the end of the formal time. No one else wanting to come in? Okay, so I mean, I've only got about halfway through my questions, I must admit, but as we've got to the time. Jean, is there anything further you would like to say before we close? What we normally do is close the sort of formal informal part of this EOcafe, because it's all informal, and have an even more informal part where, as I said, it's a free-for-all. Anybody can pop in and say something. So, but before we do that, let me just give you the floor again to any remarks you might want to make.
Nothing in particular, just say that I was pleased to have that discussion, and I really believe that together we can make, we really don't want any more, or if it was the case in the past, I don't think so. We don't want EuroGEO to be perceived by just Commission initiative. It has to be, it is our initiative altogether. And that's really something I would like to continue in that direction.
And maybe I would throw in that we're really keen to build on EShape in that perspective. You know, there were parts of EShape looking at how the setup could be made sustainable, how it could be taken forward. We built in the onboarding process to make sure that it was dynamic and not stable, so that it just didn't deal with the projects that were there at the beginning, but there were new projects coming in, new ideas. And I think we've learned a lot through that, and that's been an excellent process. So thank you, and all your colleagues for the support in that respect. And let's look at this ongoing strategy. Let's look at the way EShape can help, and let's look at how we can build the best for Europe.
Okay.
Great. So Jean, you mentioned hospitality earlier, right at the very beginning. You mentioned it, and I was smiling because we normally at this time of year have a sort of a Christmas an invitation to the office, and but unfortunately we can't again, second year in a row. Last year we compensated that with a special EOcafe that we call Prosecchio. So Prosecchio will be the next EOcafe in 2 weeks' time. It's a Christmas edition. It should be fun. We had a very special guest last year that proved very entertaining, and we'll have lots to entertain you in Prosecchio on the 16th of December at 4 o'clock. So please come and join us. And we look forward to seeing you in your Christmas outfits. And unfortunately we can't share a real glass of wine, but you can be ready with your own glass of wine, as we will be, and we'll look forward to that. As part of it, there's a picture competition. Please submit your picture summarizing your perspective on 2021. I think if you follow that link, you'll find all the rules and the guidelines as to what pictures you should submit. There'll be prizes, so please participate. There will be something for the winner, as there was last year. I won't say anything more. So thank you all for participating. I hope you now know a bit more about EuroGEO, how maybe you can get involved if you need to or wish to. Please come to us at EURS to learn more. And last remains just to thank Jean again for joining us, and look forward to sharing a beer with you sometime fairly soon, Jean.
Yeah.
So open microphones, anyone who wishes to comment now.